oppression, despair, brainwashing, hopelessness. This is what the average person had to endure under the powerful and technologically advanced German regime in Machinegames Wolfenstein reboot series. But how did the Germans get their hands on this technology to conquer the world? What else happened in the world of Wolfenstein before the Second World War? I went through every Wolfenstein wiki page, every newspaper clipping, and every readable letter to present you the full timeline of Wolfenstein. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Long before the existence of modern civilization and the German Reich, there existed the ancient technological society known as the Da'at Yichud during ancient Mesopotamia times in 2000 BC. This society primarily focused on creating advanced inventions and technology way ahead of their time as a way to commune with their god. The Da'at Yichud did not use this technology other than to create it, so they hid their tech in several vaults scattered across the world so no one else could find this technology and exploit it. The Da'at Yichud kept operating in the shadows, staying out of the world's affairs during most of history. From the year 946 to 955, King Otto I builds Castle Wolfenstein, a gigantic fortress in the Bavarian Alps. After the construction of the castle, the king then travels to Constantinople, where he discovers ancient parchments assumed to be of Da'at Yichud origin. With the knowledge gained from these parchments, Otto's scholars create many medieval war machines, giant monsters such as the flesh golem, and many alchemical substances. It's with these weapons that the king would use to defeat the army of 45,000 Magyars in the Battle of Lechfeld. In 955, the king's giant monsters blazed through the battlefield, picking up the enemy's horses and tearing them apart, as well as ripping off the heads of Magyar soldiers. Only a sea of Magyar soldiers with missing limbs remained in the aftermath. Shortly after this battle, one of Otto's scholars, Siegwald Berger, creates an alchemical substance that brings the dead back to life as shamblers. In 964, one of Otto's scholars would create the radiation incendiary device, the first iteration of a laser weapon. On March 3, 966, King Otto orders the village of Wolfburg, a village near Castle Wolfenstein, to be razed to the ground. As for what reason did the village deserve it remains to be unknown. The village would be rebuilt nearly half a century later, presumably after the death of King Otto I. In the 1400s, the Teutonic Knights build a massive fortress on the coast of the Baltic Sea in Poland. The fortress would be occupied by Swedish forces during the 30 Years' War that lasted from 1618 to 1648 and would eventually become Death's main base of operations. In the 1700s, the Da'at Yichud create the power suit, which gives enhanced mobility and strength to anyone wearing it. In 1824, the Małowież Psychiatric Hospital is established by Dr. Franciszek Oliva. On 28 July 1914, the First World War breaks out between the Allied powers and Central Powers. On November 11, 1918, after the signing of an armistice between Germany and the Allied powers, the First World War ends. In the following decades, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, led by Mustache Man, begins gaining popularity in Germany, attracting many people like Irene Engel, who joined it in 1932. On March 23, 1933, Mustache Man becomes the Chancellor of Germany and begins consolidating power, eventually have full control over the nation. In 1934, Helga von Schab's mother suddenly dies, and with the family being descendants of King Otto I, Helga inherits the keys to Castle Wolfenstein. She establishes an enterprise of treasure hunting and occult research. She becomes a tomb raider and begins traveling all over the world. Death's Head also catches the eye of someone powerful within the Nazi Party and is put in position where his exceptional talents and expertise can be used for the benefit of the growing German war machine. On July 17, 1936, the Spanish Civil War breaks out between Franco's nationalist forces and the left-leaning Spanish government, ultimately ending in victory for the nationalist forces on April 1, 1939. Germany had also been building up its military forces and sets out on its next target, Poland. On August 23, 1939, the Molotov-Ribbentrop is signed by Germany and the Soviet Union, and on September 1st, Germany invades Poland. France and the United Kingdom, who had given guarantees for Polish independence, declared war on Germany on September 3rd. The Soviets would invade Poland on the east on September 17th. Poland's military forces surrender on October 6th, and the country is divided between the Germans and the Soviets. In April of 1940, Germany invades both Denmark and Norway to secure its imports of iron ore from Sweden. On May 10th, German forces invade France through the lowland countries of Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. With blitzkrieg tactics from the advancing German army, Allied forces are quickly outmaneuvered, encircled, and annihilated, leading to the quick surrender of France on June 22nd. Sometime after the fall of France, the Germans find a Da'at Yichud vault beneath Paris and begin extracting the contents. Along with ancient parchments from the Da'at Yichud, found by Helga von Schabs during her trip to Istanbul, Death's Head is able to begin studying and analyzing this technology in an attempt to understand its sophistication and reverse engineer it for the benefit of the Germans. On June 22, 1941, Germany, along with its allies, launched the invasion of the Soviet Union and begin making significant gains. During this time, Set Roth, a member of the Da'at Yichud, is deported to a labor camp in Belica, Croatia. On December 7th, Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, dragging the United States into the war on the side of the Allies. On March 17, 1943, Berlin is heavily bombed by the British Royal Air Force, with some areas resembling a sea of flames. Somewhere between August 1943 and August 1944, William Joseph B.J. Blaskowitz is sent to Eisenstadt to recover German war schematics and encounters Death's Head. BJ discovers that Death's Head is constructing a device to open a portal to the Black Sun dimension, where the Germans can harness the destructive power within. Caroline Becker, an ally helping BJ in Eisenstadt, is shot in the spine while BJ pursues Death's Head to put an end to the mad genius once and for all. Death's Head almost perishes in a Zeppelin crash, which gives him a new outlook on life. BJ, unsuccessful in killing Death's Head, escapes Eisenstadt and reports back to Office of Secret Actions. On June 6, 1944, the Allies launch an amphibious invasion on the beaches of Normandy in occupied France. However, Death's Head, latest iteration of military weapons derived from Da'at Yichud technology, turns the entire invasion into bloodshed for Allied forces. Of all the 156,000 Allied soldiers sent to capture the beaches, all of them were either killed, captured as prisoners of war, or went missing in the battle. In contrast, the Germans lose a mere 89 German soldiers, a negligible amount to the already massive German army. This failed invasion deals a crippling blow to the Allied war effort and strains relations between the US and the UK. This event would mark the turning point of the war, where the tides begin changing in Germany's favor. On July 22nd, an assassination attempt is made on Mustache Man, but ultimately fails. On March 9, 1945, after nearly 3 years of a brutal siege of the city, Stalingrad falls under control to the Germans. The Germans waste no time and redirect its forces to the heart of the Soviet Union, Moscow. The Germans begin a week-long bombing campaign, obliterating the city and forcing the Red Army to retreat from the burning ruins of Moscow on March 16. On June 24th, during the air battle of Liverpool, the Luftwaffe cripples the British Royal Air Force, making it lose nearly 66% of its fighters. With barely any fighters to defend the skies, German bombers begin intensifying their operations on British soil. On December 30, 1945, another assassination attempt is made on Mustache Man. This time, during a visit to Castle Wolfenstein, the attempt fails, and the assailant is captured and hanged. On March 10, 1946, residents of Wolfsburg are ordered to evacuate as the SS Paranormal Division begins uncovering mysteries within the village's dig site. On March 14th, after nearly a month of Arctic warfare, German forces capture the iron ore mine in Kiruna, a vital location for the Swedish war effort against the Germans. Sweden subsequently surrenders and signs a peace treaty with Germany, which sees Sweden's parliament being disbanded, the Swedish monarchy pledging loyalty to Germany, and new trading agreements where Swedish iron ore will be shipped exclusively to Germany, further strengthening the already massive German war machine. On March 15th, built by captured Allied soldiers from the Normandy landings, the Normandy Defense Museum has finished construction and is said to open next week. On March 16th, BJ and Richard Wesley infiltrate Castle Wolfenstein to steal a folder from Helga von Schabs containing the location of Death's Head compound, the source of the rapidly developing German military technology. The duo get caught by Rudy Jaeger, and Wesley unfortunately gets eaten by Jaeger's dog. BJ is able to avenge Wesley by killing Jaeger's dog and Jaeger himself. BJ then travels with Kessler and Annette to Wolfsburg, where Helga von Schabs is currently residing. During an excavation in the Wolfsburg dig site, The SS Paranormal Division accidentally unleash an alchemical gas that zombifies the soldiers occupying Wolfsburg, turning them into shamblers. BJ pursues Helga von Schaub's to the dig site and the underground vault beneath it. There, Helga releases the flesh golem. Because of her heritage, Helga is able to control the monster but quickly loses it and gets chewed up. BJ defeats the monster, watches as Helga succumbs to her injuries, and retrieves the folder containing the location of Death's Head compound. With the vital intel received, the Allies begin preparing for an all-out assault on the compound. On July 16th, the combined Allied air forces launch a massive assault on Death's Head compound. The Allied unit suffers heavy casualties from the compound's fortifications, and many of the early prototypes of superweapons defending it, like the Baltic Eye and Panzerhunde. Despite the overwhelming odds, BJ's squad is able to infiltrate the castle, but get caught by Death's Head. Depending on the player's choice, BJ either saves Fergus or Wyatt from Death's Head cruel experiment. Death's Head then leaves the remainder of BJ's team to burn in an incinerator room. But the team is able to break free from their restraints and find way out by jumping out from a window into the sea. However, BJ is struck with shrapnel in the head during his jump and is left to drift across the Baltic Sea until being rescued by a Polish fisherman and brought to Mławisz Psychiatric Hospital, where he is cared for by Anya Oliva for the next 15 years. The Allied assault on Death's Head compound ultimately ends in failure, and the last chance to turn the tide of the war ends as nothing is left to stop the rapidly evolving German war machine. On August 20th, German-Japanese forces wipe out more than half the American fleet in the Battle of Leyte Gulf in the Pacific. The U.S. subsequently loses naval supremacy as a result. On December 12th, the Soviet Union surrenders to Germany after the Soviet defeat at the Battle of Izhevsk and the destruction of their military factories in the Ural Mountains by the German bombing campaign. Joseph Stalin, however, is missing and is presumed to be killed by his own men. Remnants of the Red Army continue to fight on. On January 3rd, 1947, Germany launches an amphibious invasion of Canada. Hundreds of German ships cross the Atlantic onto Canadian shores. Despite this overwhelming force, Allied defenses are able to hold the invasion force at bay for the time being. On April 4th, the last remnants of the Red Army are wiped out thanks to the deployment of Panzerhunde to the front lines and shredding through Russian infantry units. On March 7, 1948, the Republic of China and the People's Liberation Army repelled Japanese forces to Hubei province, but with the defeat of the Soviet Union from the east, the German menace moves towards China. On June 21st, the United Kingdom surrenders to Germany after a massive invasion of the Isles. After this defeat, the Commonwealth fell under German rule and its armies ordered to stand down. On July 8th, the United Forces of China surrenders to Germany after its last stronghold was conquered by German special assault teams. Japan is also forced to give up its territorial claims in Asia as Germany begins transitioning China and Japan into servant states. In October, several professors connected to the Manhattan Project are murdered in Albuquerque by a psychotic ex-military student. This student was most likely contacted by German undercover operatives to carry out this deed and sabotage the American nuclear development effort. On December 11th, a press meeting is held regarding Hellstorm missiles being installed to defend the American East Coast. Despite these Hellstorm missiles, on December 21st, Germany is able to fly a bomber carrying a nuclear bomb over New York and drop it on the city, instantly vaporizing 200,000 people and largely decimating Manhattan. On December 24th, the President of the United States announces the surrender of the country, urging remaining American forces to stand down and cooperate with the arriving German army. This signals the end of the Second World War with complete German victory. After the surrender, Mustache Man gives a victory speech on the Capitol building as German soldiers and Panzerhunde parade down the streets of the American capital. On January 7, 1949, the pacification of America begins as German troops are deployed to occupy and quell any insurgencies. Surviving American troops are ordered to report to the occupiers to be assigned labor duties. German forces are met with resistance, terror bombings, assassinations, and street fighting. In February, the Germans demolish Mount Rushmore as the first sign of erasing countries' cultures and replacing them with German ones. On October 13th, Italy is invaded and swiftly conquered by German forces. It is likely that Germany also did this to its remaining allies too. In 1951, The Ausmerzer is built and called in to destroy the remaining organized resistance in North America. After the end of the Liberation War, the Ausmerzer continued patrolling the continent to discourage anyone from taking up arms against the Reich. On July 20th, 3:56 a.m., German astronaut Hans Armstrong and his co-pilot Emmerich Otto become the first men to land on the moon. In August, the London Resistance Cell launches an uprising of the city and almost succeed in liberating it. But on September 17th, the London Monitor is brought into the city and systematically wipes out the London resistance. On May 15, 1953, the first outbreak of mold infestation is found in Concrete in Berlin. Set Roth, who had made the concrete formula for the Germans, had secretly tampered with the formula so that mold can grow on it. On October 25th, the Great Wall of China is reinforced with upgraded walls and thousands of automatic flak cannons to guard China from potential invaders from the Mongolian territories. In 1956, the first German lunar base is established in the Glitter Bowl. On October 2, 1957, Gibraltar Bridge is opened to the public, bridging the Gibraltar Strait and providing a direct resupply line to German forces attempting to conquer Africa. In 1960, purges begin in Paris as German authorities attempt to rid the city of who they deem undesirables. Deportation, murder, and genocide are used to achieve this. On September 2nd, bioengineers at the London Nautica announce a breakthrough in animal hybridization research, with one of the scientists even claiming that a crocoduck is possible in the near future. Now that basically concludes the first part of the timeline, right before the awakening of BJ, which marks the decline of the German Empire from here on out. If you want the second part to this timeline, smash the like button and comment down below your thoughts on the Wolfenstein timeline. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you would love to see more content like this in the future. So that's basically it. See you in the next video.